Something we've discussed previously is that leveraging psychedelic or psilocybin mushrooms ultimately had a major effect on how you carried yourself through life and ultimately your marriage. Tell me a bit more about that.
Sure. So when it comes to psychedelics, I had always had an interest in them, even from my teenage years. I think I was like 16 or so when I was in school and was told to write a paper about Timothy Leary, who was a Harvard professor that popularized psychedelic mushrooms in the US back in like the 50s or 60s. And I thought that was like a really interesting topic. I'm sure I'd heard of them before that, but I was very anti-drug, anti-drinking, all of that back in my teenage years because I just really didn't want to lose control over my brain. Very autistic thing to do, and just wanting to have full control all the time. But it was always very interesting because I kept hearing over the years, like, oh, psychedelics can actually really help people with certain mental disorders or mental health problems, or just in general, it can help people expand their mind and understand themselves deeper and connect with others more deeply. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I don't know if I'd ever be brave enough to do that, or like to release control of my mind to something like that. But it sounds like something that might help me with what I've been missing in my life, which is this connection to my emotions. And I mentioned that Melissa had helped me a lot, but it was a very high level intellectual understanding of my emotions and how to talk about them, but not quite feel them fully, because that still requires like the mental framework to understand what that even means. So when Melissa would say, you just have to feel through your emotions to process them, I would say, I don't even know what that means. Obviously, I could feel strong emotions when they came up, but I would always be very resistant towards emotions, especially difficult ones that made it very difficult for me to handle things. And I think that's probably in part caused by my autism, being resistant to things that I can't control, resistant to change, things like that. And yeah, resistant to things that are unknown mainly, because I didn't really know how to handle the emotions. But I think over time, I developed the courage to say, okay, if I ever get the opportunity, I think I would like to try a psychedelic experience for my own personal mental gain. And I didn't know what really to expect from it, but I thought, you know what, maybe it has something to teach me. Maybe it can help me with understanding myself a little better. Maybe it can help me with connecting to my wife and my other loved ones better. I'll give it a shot if I can. I didn't really know how to go about doing that, but luckily for me, I met a coworker who had access to his own homegrown mushrooms and was very, like a very big proponent of it for mental health purposes and for therapeutic purposes. And that's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking to party or to, get messed up on it. I just wanted to have a safe environment, a safe source, and a very understanding setting to do it in. So luckily, I got the opportunity to go visit this coworker, meet up as a friend, and he offered to share his his mushrooms with me and have this kind of ceremonial experience for me. And that ended up being another huge turning point in my life where it just completely blew the doors off of my brain. That's the way I think of it. The main thing that I can describe it as is like having this really big shield or gate in front of the emotional part of my brain that I just haven't been able to access fully for a long time, like as long as I could remember, back in my early teenage days when I had like the angst and the heartbreak and the depression and things like that. I had locked that up and didn't even know how to access it. Like I lost the key over the years. And no amount of therapy or being married to a therapist or having all these conversations could really tap into that door because no one had the key, right? It could knock at the door, but it couldn't quite connect all the way through. So it's more like I knew at a high level like what I needed to do to really connect with myself and with my wife, but I couldn't really access that part. And it's probably just from a lack of development over the years and losing that neural pathway. But what the mushrooms did for me was just, yeah, blow the doors off of the whole thing, completely opened up my brain, and it felt like everything was connected again. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
wow, this is what feeling full emotion feels like. I didn't even know what this felt like. I could tap into all sorts of different things. I was like bawling for the first time in I don't know how long about nothing in particular, but it was just this flood of emotion
Oh,
that I didn't even know what to do with. And it was positive. It was also difficult, but it was okay. Like I wasn't resisting it. So it just taught me so much about being okay with the way things are and working through things without resisting them. And I think maybe not for every autistic person, but for my particular flavor of autism, it
well,
was exactly what I needed to reconnect those pathways and to learn how to be okay with the unknown, how to be okay with uncertainty, how to be okay with difficult emotion, just how to understand the benefit of all of those things and really just go with life the way it is and not resist. Obviously, you can still have direction and goals and work hard for things, but I think that in particular, like I say, I had my life was before mushrooms and after mushrooms. It was that big of a difference, and I do feel like it filled in a lot of the things that have made it really difficult for me as an autistic person that I didn't develop when I was younger. That most people probably do, but I think that has made me much more prepared for life as a father